Can I ask, is anybody speaking? I can't hear anything.
Sorry, Paul. We are recording, so suddenly everybody's gone really quiet. Um, we'll just go and check as far as the translator is concerned. Matt, I can see you're on the call. Is Gareth joining us today?
I'm here.
Fantastic. Right, we'll just check about the translation before we start. 1 minute, please. There was confirmation that she was due to attend at 9 o'clock this morning. We've just sent her another email, but unfortunately, she's not here yet.
Bore da pawb, the translator has just signed in, so I'm just assigning her now. It won't be a moment.
Thank you, Fionn. Has everybody clicked on the translation services? Yep. Okay, Gareth, I think we're ready to go.
Right, pawb, a chroeso I gyfarfod. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the meeting. The first item of business is to elect a chair for the coming municipal year. Are there any nominations, please? Councillor Young?
Hi, Joconvo. Thank you, colleagues. It gives me great pleasure to propose Councillor Dullan Rees for re-election as North Wales Chair for the Fire and Rescue Authority. Dullan has provided strong, steady, inclusive leadership, bringing together members, firefighters and senior officers to ensure we continue to deliver the best possible service for the people of North Wales. On a personal note, as Deputy Chair, I've always appreciated Dullan's support, guidance and willingness to discuss any issues or provide feedback whenever needed. His team approach makes him an excellent chair. I have no hesitation in supporting his re-election and ask colleagues to do the same. Joconvo, thank you, Gareth.
Is there a seconder for that? Okay, so I think we have 3 seconders. Thank you all. I see. So, Councillor Sunderland, you'd indicated first.
Yeah, I'd formally like to second Dylan's nomination, and I agree with everything Mark has said. Thank you.
Are there any other nominations? Before I call speakers, are there any other nominations? No? Okay. Did anybody else wish to speak in relation to the issue? No? Okay, so we'll go to a vote. All those in favour, please. Are there any against? Councillor Sunderland, you still have your hand up. You voted both for and against. Are there any against?
Automatic AI, I'm afraid. Yeah.
No. So, congratulations, Councillor Rees. You are elected chair. Thank you, everybody. I will hand over the chair to yourself.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Mark, for your kind comments. I really do appreciate sort of the trust, and the confidence that you've placed in me once more. And then obviously this will be my final year as chair of the North Wales Fire and Rescue Authority, and it's a great honour. And I really, as I say, appreciate support, and I will, to the best of my endeavours, best of my abilities, seek to serve you, my fellow members, and communities of North Wales over the next 12 months. So cracking on to item 2 on the agenda, which is apologies. I'm not sure, is it Ffion that's providing the admin support today? Ffion, any apologies?
We have from Councillor Carol Beard and from Councillor Paul Rogers.
And Councillor Sian Williams, I know that you've got your hand up because I think you need to leave early today.
I do, yes, I do, for another meeting at 10:15. So
Okay.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for letting us know. And Councillor Chrissy G.
I have to leave early as well for another meeting.
And Councillor Dale Sylvester.
Thanks, Chair. It's not an apology for the meeting, it's an apology for my camera. I've tried everything possible to get my camera working, and I've left the meeting, come back in, and the camera will not work. So if any voting, it'll have to be by hand, I'm afraid.
That's fine. Thanks for letting us know.
Okay,
And Councillor Rhonda Roberts.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I have sent an email to yourself this morning. I'm having to leave early. My wife can't drive. She's got to go and see about the cast on her arm to the hospital. I'm awfully sorry.
Yeah, no, I saw the email. Thanks for confirming that. So I can't see any other hands being raised. So we'll move on to item 3 in the agenda, which is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from anyone, please? I can't see any hands being raised, so that doesn't apply. So we go on to item number 4, which is the appointment of the deputy chair for the coming year. Can I receive nominations, please? Councillor Afwyn Harold Roberts. Afwyn?
Helo, bore da. Dwi'n cynnig y cynghorydd Mark Young
I
sydd fod yn
propose Councillor Mark Young, who's been an excellent vice chair over the past year, and I'm proposing Mr. Mark Young. Councillor Mark Young.
Seconder, please. A number of hands being raised again. I think Councillor Gareth Sandilands was out of the blocks again to get second. Are you seconding the proposal, Gareth?
I am seconding the proposal. I'm confident he will work closely with you. He supported you over the last 12 months well, and his experience and dedication make him well suited for this role. So I'm seconding him. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? I can't see any. So in that case, will you please vote to show that you agree with the appointment of the deputy chair? Are there any against? No, that's unanimously passed. It would have been inappropriate for me to have commented until you'd voted, but I do very much appreciate the support and the commitment of the deputy chair. And it's great to be continuing to work with you, Mark, over the next 12 months. I think we make a good team. So, diolch yn fawr. So we go on to the item number 5, the appointment of the chair of the audit committee for the next year. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Tina Clayton?
Yes, can I propose Gareth Sandilands, please?
And do I have a seconder? Councillor Mark Young?
Yeah, I'll second that, please, Jochen Brown. Thank you.
Are there any other nominations? I can't see any other hands being raised. Will you show that you all agree with the appointments? Congratulations, Gareth. You are continuing as the chair of the audit committee.
Diolch yn fawr iawn i chi.
So we move on to item 6, which is the appointment of the deputy chair of the audit committee. Can I have, please? Gareth?
Yeah, can I propose Councillor Tina Clayton? Thank you.
And do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Jeff Evans? Are there any other nominations? I can't see any hands being raised. Will you show that you agree with the nomination, please? Any against? Councillor Dale Sylvester, you got your hand raised. Was it? No, gone down. No, it's unanimous, Tina. Congratulations. So we now move on to item number 7, which is notice of urgent matters. I haven't received any notice of urgent matters, so that does not apply. So we move on to number 8, membership of the Fire and Rescue Authority, incorporating appointments to committees and external bodies. And Gareth, I think that's back to you. Sorry, Councillor Jeff Evans, I can see that you've got your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. It was going back to urgent matters. Before we go on to the agenda of the day, I think, and I want it noted, the appreciation of the public for the sterling work that has been carried out over the last week in relation to mountain fires.
Councillor Evans, so I thoroughly agree with what you're saying, but I want it to be recorded in the next meeting because we are going to cover wildfires, and because this meeting is being recorded, I think it'd be even more appropriate for you to feed in your positive comments then, because this is the AM. And it's to do with sort of the election of officials. So if you can hold fire until the next part at the beginning of the next meeting, and then I'll invite you to feed those comments in, please. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, perfect.
Diolch yn fawr, thank you. So we will continue now with item 8, and I think, Gareth, it's back to you.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Members will be very familiar with this, with the bulk of this report being to note membership. Chair, you've already noted that we have a new member, Councillor Sian Williams. Or Sir Gwynedd, and this is, I believe, her first meeting. As well as confirming the membership and the division and appointments to the panels, which I think people would, and committee, which people would be well familiar with, I'd just like to talk, if I can, Chair, briefly about the Standards Committee. Our Standards Committee consists of 6 members. Those are 4 independent members who are co-opted onto the authority. They're recruited. And you will recall that we made an appointment at the last meeting of David Davis to one of those positions. We still have a vacancy, and so we need to re-advertise. In addition to the vacancy, 2 members will leave office next year, and their term because they're in their second term of office, their term of office won't be able to be extended any further. Now, we have some leeway or headroom in the size of the committee, Chair. We can have a maximum of 9 members. We only have 6. The suggestion is that, subject to receiving a suitable number of applications, we appoint 2 extra independent members to the Standards Committee for a period of a year to save the time and resources and expense of recruiting again, because you will see even the advertising costs alone are £5,000 advertising across the whole of North Wales, whereas it costs £840 or thereabouts to have 2 members for an extra 2 meetings, which is how often the Standards Committee meets. Add to that the officer time, the member time in coming together to shortlist an interview, and I would hope the authority would agree it makes sense, whilst we have this opportunity, to recruit the 2 extra members now. We have a precedent for doing this. One of the current members, Gareth Pritchard, himself was appointed in this way all those years ago, about nearly 10 years ago now, when we had a couple of very good candidates, but only 1 vacancy at the time. And then it was one of the independents at that time, Tony Young, who pointed out that he was shortly due to leave office and it would make sense to take on the extra person. So, Chair, hopefully it makes good sense. And as I say, we have a precedent. So, Chair, the recommendations are at page 5 of the report, I believe. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions or comments in relation to the clerk's input? No. Can I have somebody to propose we accept the recommendations of the clerk then, in that case? Thank you, Councillor Jeff Evans. Thank you, Councillor Mark Young. Will you all show that you're in agreement? That's been unanimously passed. Diolch, Gareth. So we're on to item number 9, which is the meeting dates for 2026-27. I think it's back to yourself again, Diolch.
It is, I'm afraid, Chair. Almost all the reports in this meeting are mine, I'm afraid. So, as usual, members will know what to expect here. Meetings take place for the Executive Panel and the Audit Committee on the same days, morning and afternoon. And then we have a series of meetings scheduled for the full authority. We can't, because of the sheer number of authorities involved and the number of meetings involved, guarantee that there won't be any clash for Audit Committee and Executive Panel meetings, but we have tried to avoid clashes in relation to the full authority meetings, and the councils regularly promise that they won't set any meetings up in conflict with our full authority meetings, so that you as members don't feel any clash of responsibilities with your constituent councils. I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Are there any questions or comments? No. Cynghorydd Gwynfor Owen.
Yeah, just to make the point out.
I would just like to make the point, and I'm grateful to Gareth for mentioning this, but I would just like to say it's sometimes difficult that the main council doesn't meet at the same day, but we've had an example of an emergency council being convened. We've had an example of having committees on the same day, and one has to juggle and decide which one you're going to attend. Should I attend the council meeting or the fire authority meeting? It is difficult. But according to council officers, this is almost impossible for them to, attend. Everyone, I've been at loggerheads with them at times because, we want to make sure that these meetings do not clash with the park meetings. But now they say they don't want to clash with the fire authorities meetings. Thank you, Gwynfor, for your comments.
Your hand's been raised, so will you? Can I have a proposal that we accept the meeting dates as set out in the report? Thank you, Councillor Jeff Evans. Diolch, Gwynfor. Will you all show that you agree? Diolch yn fawr. That's been passed. So we move on to item 10, which is the members' remuneration scheme. Diolch, Gareth.
Thank you, Chair. Again, quite a familiar report for members. The Democracy and Boundary Commission Cymru has set the rates of pay for authority members for the coming 12 months. As always, that is subject to a caveat that members who receive a cabinet allowance from their constituent authority can't claim a fire authority allowance. So, Chair, the report publishes the rates for the coming 12 months. We're also obliged, Chair, to report on what we have paid to people over the last 12 months. And so that is attached to the schedule. And Chair, lastly, the report asks for permission to update the schedule of what we will pay over the coming 12 months, should there be any changes in membership. I'm happy to take any questions, Chair. Oh, and Chair, what I would note is that in the next meeting, I have asked you for an urgent item on remuneration because we will be discussing rates of pay for the new authority after the elections in May 27.
Diolch, Gareth. Any questions or comments from members? I can't see any hands being raised. In that case, can I ask for a proposer and seconder? Thank you, Charlie. Seconder? Thank you, Gareth. Will you all show that you approve the report? Diolch yn fawr. That's been passed. So there isn't any urgent matters in this part of the meeting. So item 11 doesn't apply and there's no part 2. So that concludes the AGM. So we will now move on to the normal quarterly meeting of the Fire Authority. So item number 1, apologies again. If I may just confirm the situation with apologies, please, Fionn.
Yes, of course. We have apologies from Councillor Carol Beard, Councillor Paul Rogers. We have been notified that Councillor Sean Williams, Chrissy Gee and Councillor Rondo Roberts will need to leave early.
Thank you very much. And in this meeting, can I formally, as the chair, welcome Sian to her first full Fire Authority meeting. Croeso Sian, mae'n braf I cael chi ymuno efo ni. And can I also take the opportunity to congratulate former member of the Fire Authority, Mark Jones, who's been elected to the Senedd since the last meeting that we held. Councillor Paul Cunningham, I can see that your hand is raised.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. I can't seem to get a picture up of myself, and I've got a terrible echo.
Okay, noted, but it's good to have you with us, Paul. Cynghorydd Owen?
Thank you. Is it also possible for us to thank Councillor Gareth Roberts for his service? Certainly, yes. Councillor Gareth Roberts, thank you. Are there any other comments?
Any hands been raised? So item 2, declaration of interest. Any declarations of interest? No, I can't see many hands being raised. So we move on to item number 3, which is notice of urgent matters. And I'm going to invite the Chief Fire Officer to give a statement on the situation on wildfires. And after she's given her statement, Councillor Jeff Evans will have the first opportunity to respond. Diolch.
Diolch yn fawr. Members will be aware that since the early hours of the 12th of July, we have been responding to a number of significant wildfire incidents across North Wales. A major incident was declared during the Conway Mountain fire because of the number of simultaneous incidents that were going on at the same time and the significant demand on operational resources. That major incident was stood down at 5 o'clock on the Monday, but crews have continued to deal with wildfire activity across the region. The most significant ongoing incident is near to Harlock. A tactical coordination group was re-established and has continued to coordinate the multi-agency response there. The fire has developed through the week as temperature increased and wind conditions changed. And it's estimated that approximately 2,000 acres have been affected, with a fire front of around 2 kilometres. Operationally, crews have been using natural fire breaks and creating additional fire breaks to contain the spread. A significant proportion of the effective area is inaccessible by either vehicle or foot, and that makes firefighting particularly challenging. The fire is also approaching forestry areas, and that's being closely monitored. And we have worked with Natural Resources Wales to bring in heavy machinery onto the site to cut fire breaks to help control the spread. Multiple crews remain in attendance and expect to be committed there for some time. Local roads have been closed to support emergency response activity, and crews are maintaining contact with nearby properties. The service has requested aerial support through Natural Resources Wales. This request has been approved, and helicopter support is expected during this week. This is because of delays caused by the demand from wildfires across the whole of the UK. Military assistance through the Military Aid to Civil Authorities arrangements have been considered at the Tactical Coordination Group. However, there is currently no military capability available that could support our wildfire operations. The incident continues to be managed through specialist wildfire resources and partner agency support, and we continue to review the situation. I believe there's been considerable public and media interest relating to a privately arranged helicopter operating near the Harlech site, and I need to state that neither North Wales Fire and Rescue Service nor Natural Resources Wales were involved or aware in that operation before it arrived. Alongside these incidents, we have been responding to a number of other emergencies, both domestic and industrial. And as the temperatures continue to be high, we have also had a number of water rescue incidents. Chair, I would like to place on record my sincere thanks to our firefighters, control firefighters, support teams and partner agencies who've worked tirelessly through this period of sustained operational activity. Despite the significant demands placed on the service at this time, we continue to respond effectively to emergencies across North Wales whilst maintaining public safety and supporting the communities affected. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Chief, for that update. Councillor Jeff Evans?
Sorry,
sorry?
You went on.
Yeah, Councillor Jeff Evans, you're on.
Okay, thank you for that. Can I just endorse that which the Chief has just related to? This has been an extremely difficult time right across the country, and wildfires have been quite significant across North Wales, be it Conwy, Harlech, and in my area, Holyhead in particular, which has put a lot of fear and worry for members of the community. But I want to indicate and highlight the public appreciation, as has been spoken and related to on the social media internet. Comments have included the sterling professional manner that the firefighters and crews have addressed the fires, safeguarding homes and the community at large. The response from the public has been so appreciative. I would like all the firefighters' crews to know that they are appreciated so much and thank them so well for the sterling work as has been carried out. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Cynghorydd Gwynfor Owen.
Diolch yn fawr, Secretary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I'm the councillor where this fire is taking place within my ward, and I would initially like to thank all of the staff members who are giving so much to tackle this issue. The support is amazing, and people within the community are extremely grateful to the workers. I have called in the Harlech station to thank people personally. I cannot emphasize enough how grateful the community is to the workers. However, I do have questions, and I don't want to speak ill of the fire service at all. Its work has been amazing. I think this is a point beyond what the fire service is able to do. Now, there are a few farmers, and I'm not saying for a second that this is the cause of the problem here, but there are quite a few farmers who are saying that the reason we're having some of these wildfires is due to Natural Resources Wales policies that have been preventing farmers from treating the area in the traditional manner as they have done for years, and that this then makes it easier for these fires to spread. I have no idea whether this is correct. And there are a number of farmers, I emphasize not in this area, but many other farmers have told me this. It might be high time for Natural Resources Wales to revisit its policies, because they say they are concerned about wildlife and so forth. But if this then leads to these wildfires, it renders the policy worthless. Then moving on to the Natural Resources Wales helicopter. Now, I'm not sure what I'm right in saying that this is the NRW helicopter. Nonetheless, Natural Resources Wales, no, the chief is shaking her head, so I presume that is not correct. Okay, well, thank you for that, chief. Sometimes you don't have to attenuate words, do you? Okay, but moving on then to the army. And it's obvious that they do not have the capacity to help. And it is sad, but I think we need, I think this would have to be realized through pressure exerted by the fire authority. This is a national issue at British level, where the British government really ought to be dealing with this matter as an emergency, where there are people and homes being placed in risk because of these fires, and central government ought to be responding much better. Central government ought to be able to provide help on demand also to people who are victims of these fires. So if it is possible at all for the fire authorities to come together and to persuade central government to take an interest in this issue and to try and ensure that they respond to these emergencies in future. We must remember that this will add significantly to our costs as a fire authority, and also it will involve greater costs for other fire authorities. It might prevent us from doing other essential work. So we truly need to look at this matter because the situation is just going to get worse in the future. With climate change, we're going to have hot weather more often, and we are also going to have more and more fires. We cannot just rest on our laurels and just say, well, that's it, this is going to happen, and the fire service will go out and sort it. We must have far greater planning, prior planning, and, I don't want to speak ill of the fire authority at all. I have only praise for the way in which the fire authority has operated. Thank you, Gwynfor, for those comments.
From the principal officer team. Thank you, Chief.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Owen, for those comments, because I do agree with you that with the climate change and the rising of temperatures, what was a irregular incident is now becoming almost every summer. We are dealing with more and more wildfires. I can't possibly comment on natural resources policy, so I will leave that. With regards to the contract for the helicopter, the contract is with Natural Resources Wales, but that is subcontracted out, and that contractor is in demand across the whole of the UK at this moment in time. This is something that we are discussing with Welsh Government, and I think there is a realisation that across Wales we need to be resourced better for dealing with these incidents every year. So we will continue with those discussions. With regards to the UK, the organisation that we are part of, the National Fire Chiefs Council, has been pressurising the UK government to recognise that this is a everyday incident, and wildfires, when we used to think of them as something that was either in the Southern Hemisphere or indeed in Europe, is now on our doorstep. So as I say, conversations are taking place, and I appreciate your support for the work that the crews in North Wales have been doing. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Councillor Paul Cunningham.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Many years ago, as you understand, I was a firefighter, and we thought the summer of 1976 was exceptional. It was new to us. We were sent to places like Cynwyd and Llandegla, places we'd never been to in the old Flintshire days. But as we were Clwyd, we were going to these places. We thought we had it hard. But when I look at the firefighters of today and the problems that they are facing, I am very proud of this service, that I am a member of the authority. I am proud of each and every one of them, from the merest fire, I apologise, I don't mean to use that word, from the firefighter right through to the chief and all the backroom staff. Their work is tremendous. Diolch yn fawr iawn, and pass on my thanks to all the firefighters. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Paul. And as chair, I actually put something out on social media last week thanking all those involved in tackling the wildfires and praising them for their courage, their dedication and their professionalism. And I'm sure that all members of the authority would agree with those comments, and I'm sure that the chief will pass that back to all those involved. Cynghorydd Owen Roberts.
Yeah. Bore da. Diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Mr Chairman. Yes, I would like to echo what Councillor Gwynfor Owen has said. I'd like to thank the team from the bottom of my heart. The team has been out fighting these fires. Their work has been sterling. But on the other matter, raised by Councillor Gwynfor Owen with Natural Resources Wales, and the fact that the farmers have mentioned that they aren't allowed to do the work that they used to be allowed to do. Now, thank goodness there's been no fire in my area, but there have been in the past, and quite severe ones. But I've had landowners on the mountain approach me some 2 or 3 years ago. Though we are outside the park boundaries, Parc Cenedlaethol Eryri came here and erected a firewall around the area in order to prevent fires from spreading across farms. Now, the owners have got in touch with the national park, and they said, yes, we did this 2 or 3 years ago, but now we do not have the money to undertake this type of work. So the park in our part of the world is no longer creating this firewall now. Is the service working with the national park on this matter? Because there are people here, they've seen the damage that has been done. They are really concerned that it might happen in their area. I would just like to know what type of cooperation there is between ourselves and Parc Cenedlaethol Eryri. You know, it covers a huge swathe of land here in North Wales. Thank you.
Yeah, I can take that. There is work that goes on, prevention work. You know, we are on the whole a preparedness and prevention organisation. So there is a lot of work that goes on with our prevention teams, where we not only speak with our local communities and our farmers, but we do engage with Natural Resources Wales. There are activities that ongoing, which when we're at steady state, where we actually do go to land, we do visit sites, we do look for areas of risk, and we look at how we may deploy our sort of tactics when there isn't an incident, to sort of understand how we can work together. So it is really about understanding those areas of risk and working with Natural Resources Wales wherever possible.
Councillor Rhonda Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say a personal thank you to the crews that attended. I know Llangollen attended a week last Thursday and Friday to a deliberate fire in my area, where 4 separate fires were started, and 2 of them went underground then, and they had to come back Friday morning, Friday evening. Individuals were identified for causing these fires. What's the procedure for liaising between the Fire Authority and North Wales Police to sort of bring these to book, these culprits? Thank you.
Yeah. So where we do have, sorry, Chief.
No, we both jump in. Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, well, with any fire, where we have, you know, whether it's a deliberate fire or where there's arson, we certainly would engage with North Wales Police, and we would bring this to their attention, and they would determine whether there's charges that will be brought, and obviously that then would go through to CPS for things to be progressed. I'm afraid, other than, you know, us raising the issues and highlighting where these fires that have not been accidental, it's then over to our blue light colleagues.
Thank you. I know the incident was reported, and a crime number was received by the person who reported it. I was just wondering if you've got any updates on it.
I don't have an update that I could provide you with now, but perhaps I could certainly look into that. Perhaps that beyond us reporting or the incident being reported, it might be difficult for us to establish that information, depending on what the police are available to us.
Thank you. But you know, the location where it was very awkward, and I just like to say thank you to the crews. Thank you.
Cynghorydd John Evan Jones.
Diolch yn fawr iawn eto.
Thank you. Again, you know, just saying thank you doesn't really scratch the surface in terms of our gratitude to everyone who has been working over the past few weeks. My question, very quickly, I know that you say that we are reliant on Natural Resources Wales when it comes to helicopters to tackle these wildfires. My question simply is, we have a search and rescue service in Caernarfon, and in a similar vein, is it just an admin issue that we cannot tap into using a helicopter from there and to adapt the equipment to enable us to carry seawater and to work with them? There's never a mention of the possibility of working with their helicopter. Since everyone is under financial strain, and that we are very keen to retain the service in Caernarfon, is it not possible to work with them also to use their equipment? Because their helicopter, from what I gather, is used in many situations from Ireland to Italy. So are there any links between the fire service and that department in order to improve things for the future? Thank you.
Chief?
Okay. I think there's been a lot of attention on a helicopter resource, and it isn't actually just a helicopter. It's having the specialist trained pilots that are able to scoop up the water and to put it onto the fire. And although it is very helpful, it is not the only tool that we need. So I've talked earlier about the need to create fire breaks and to use cutting gear to create those fire breaks. And we have been using the equipment from Natural Resources Wales for that. And in many ways, that can be more effective in containing the fire. So although, you know, I know the media focus has been on the helicopter and aircraft resource, but that is not the only tactic that's needed. But I appreciate that everybody is trying to help and to make useful suggestions. So thank you for pointing that out to us.
Councillor Beverly Parry-Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Just going back to really what Councillor Roberts said about the wildfires, and I suppose it's advice that I'm looking for, really, because I was made aware last week of what I would say was totally irresponsible actions by a resident, where they live out in rural Wales, halfway up a mountainside, you've got livestock in the field, and then they were bragging. I suppose bragging is maybe the wrong word, but it's the only word I can use to describe it, where they had in their orchard burnt their garden rubbish. Now that to me was a totally irresponsible action, given the situation of where they live, the situation that we're in. The ground is so dry, it's tinderbox, in my opinion, and I might be wrong. It would have only taken a spark, and then, you know, obviously it could spread. We could have had a wildfire, and it would have been putting our firefighters' lives in danger, in my opinion, unnecessarily. So I just wondered, is there anything as a fire and rescue authority that we can do, or perhaps we are doing, to educate members of the public, certainly in rural areas? Look, you really don't need to be doing this. You know, you can burn your garden rubbish at any time. You know, because I was absolutely furious, and I did tear a strip off this person. They were left in no doubt as to what I thought of them, but that's by the by. And I just wondered, do we have, I don't know, like an engagement program where we can educate our rural residents, and just it should be on everyone's agenda and radar, and the seriousness of it. But I was absolutely horrified when I heard what this person had done, and then I'm thinking, so should I report this person to the police? Because I would have no qualms whatsoever about doing it, because in my opinion it was dangerous. Sorry, that's it, rant over.
Thank you, Beverly. Justin?
Yeah, I think it starts right the way back. So we try and get ahead of the issue in so much that we're educating our young people. So in terms of, you know, we visit every school in North Wales with our educationalists, and about, you know, the dangers of fire in open spaces is absolutely part of that education. So we're certainly warning people about dangers of having open fires, you know, barbecues and things like that. So we're speaking to people when they're youngsters. If you've been following any social media, you will see that this week, whilst we don't want the public to be fatigued with the messaging that we're sending out, but we are messaging around the fires that are ongoing. We're showing videos, we're giving messages out there, but we're definitely making sure that we put those safety messages in there at the same time. So we're advising people about open fires, barbecues, discarded smoking materials, glass, and all those things. So we're most definitely asking people to work with us, because we're trying to tell people about how stretched we are currently. But yeah, these certainly agree. These conditions currently, they're absolutely tinderbox. So we'll emphasise that we really want people to take care. It's very sad that we still get calls to our control room of people advising us that they are undertaking control on private land. And all we can do is give advice, and we do give advice, and we plead with people not to have fires. But there have been occasions where people give us assurances that they've got beaters or they've got water and that they're able to deal. But if anything got out of control, they could deal it with themselves. But thanks for raising the point. We're certainly, it goes with all of us, I guess. Every time that we are perhaps engaging with friends and family and other people, we have to make sure that we all spread the word about how it is important to sort of take care during these conditions. But thank you.
Thank you, Justin. We have got a very long agenda today, so I'm keen for us to move forward. So I'll give the last. I've got two hands being raised. If you can be as succinct as possible, please. Councillor Paul Cunningham.
Thank you, Chair. I'm on the AONB authority, and we're always banging the drum about the country code, about people taking barbecues into the country and so on and so forth. So we work in conjunction with the North Wales Fire Authority to push this message over. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak once more.
Thank you, Paul. Gair olaf o hwn I cynghorydd Gwynfor Owen. Diolch, Gwynfor.
Diolch am ddeiriad am ddod yn ôl, Mr Cadeirydd. Just cwestiwn yma'n bod yn sôn...
Apologies for coming back, Mr Chairman. There's been mention of various helicopters and so forth, but are drones at all helpful? But the irony is that there is a drone practice area in Llanbedr, about a mile or so from the fire. Lots of people are saying that these drones are strong and big enough to carry water. If this is true, it would be excellent to see these drones being deployed for people's benefit, and it would also be excellent to see them being used, because there's no risk to life at all when you use drones, unlike when you use helicopters. Thank you.
I think ACFO Anthony Jones is going to respond to that one. Anthony?
Diolch, thank you. Yes, what I can say is we have been using drones throughout these incidents. We have a strong partnership with the local police force, North Wales Police. I was at Conway Mountain last Sunday evening, and the use of their drone was fantastic in gaining our situational awareness for our commanders, understanding where potential fire breaks were, where the potential for fire spread was. And we are also developing an internal business case for that similar drone capability for ourselves. In relation to drones for firefighting, I think whilst they are probably in their infancy, there are examples probably outside of the UK where drones are being used. I haven't seen sort of experience or examples within the UK. They will be limited in the impact they can have. The helicopter that we have used via Natural Resources Wales in the past is truly specialised, as the Chief mentioned earlier, but in high demand at these times. But I would envisage us seeing as a sector the use of drones expanding, but it isn't something that's currently, if you like, in service in the UK that I'm aware of for firefighting. But they are very, very much part of our tools in our armoury for situational awareness and understanding the scale, certainly, of the fires that we've been dealing with.
And just on that point, actually, one of my favourite programmes is watching Michael Portillo's Continental Railway Journeys. And when he visited Corsica, he visited the Fire Rescue Service in Corsica, who are trialling using drones not just for situational awareness, but also to actually measure the heat from the spots on the mountain so they can identify where the fires may sort of reignite. So that's something that's being piloted outside the UK at the moment. Anyway, I didn't intend to have the last comment, but I have. Chair's privilege. So thank you everybody for your contributions. So as I said before, it's a long agenda. We will have a comfort break around 10:30 for you to have a chance to have a little respite. So moving on to item number 4, which is the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 20th of April. We can deal with those in terms of accuracy, please. So page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, and lastly, page 11. I can't see any hands being raised in terms of accuracy concerns. So can somebody propose that we accept the minutes of true record? Thank you, Mark Young. Diolch, Arwyn. Will you all show that you're in agreement? Diolch yn fawr. So just a couple of items to report on. Item 4.3, in the last meeting, we reported on the legislation that had been passed by the Welsh Government in relation to the change in governance arrangements. Now, the previous Welsh Government had stated that it was their intention that South Wales Fire and Rescue Authority would begin the process of the new governance arrangements with cabinet members representing the different authorities and then additional members being independently appointed, and that was to commence later this year, and then Mid and West Wales and North Wales would follow suit after the elections next May. The new Cabinet Secretary last Monday has made a written statement in which he has announced that the commissioners will remain for the time being in South Wales with the intervention measures until after next May. So although progress has been made, they're not satisfied that sufficient progress has been made to be able to withdraw the commissioners. Unfortunately, the written statement does not make any reference to what is going to happen in the meantime with North Wales and Mid and West Wales. So I'm going to ask the Chief whether or not she's heard anything further as to what's going to happen now with government's arrangements in terms of the timetable. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, we were notified of the Cabinet Secretary's statement probably at about the same time as South Wales colleagues. So we didn't have the opportunity to feed into that statement, but we have subsequently met with Welsh Government officials. I guess we express our concern that we believe that South Wales has made good progress and the work that we do across the fire services on culture has been impressive. But the Welsh Government officials tell us that the expectations now are that South Wales will probably have a formal new governance arrangements at the same time as North Wales Fire Service and Mid and West Wales Fire Service in July 27. Now, that is probably unfortunate because we were intending to work with South Wales to learn from them and also then start making arrangements for the transition to the new governance arrangements next year. I believe that the appointment for additional members is now going to be later, possibly into 27 as well. So we continue to work with Welsh Government officials because, of course, before we know it, we will be moving to these new arrangements and we need to ensure that we understand how this will operate. I know that, Gareth, you have also been discussing with the monitoring officers with the other two fire and rescue authorities, and there still remains an awful lot of questions to be answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Cynghorydd Gwynfor Owen, and then I'll hand over to the monitoring officer.
Ta well gadael i'r Gareth ddod i fewn gyntaf.
Gareth, like to come in first of all.
Diolch, very generous, thank you. So, Chair, the Chief mentioned that I am in touch with the other two fire clerks, which I am. We meet on a regular basis, we meet monthly. The clerk to South Wales was working with Cardiff University to try and develop some precedent documents around governance and a constitution for the new fire authority. In a way, she's quite grateful that she has a little extra time to do that, because it was quite a tall order trying to get all of the paperwork in place. But yes, it has left them in a very difficult situation. We still haven't heard anything from Cardiff in terms of a proposed governance model, and so that is something that I am raising now with the South Wales clerk to say, look, we need to do this. Can we be getting on with this? It's also something that I've suggested to the chief, that we start having a conversation about what Plan B might look like in the event that Cardiff University take more than a few months to be able to deliver that paperwork to us, because we really need to start planning for what the governance will look like when we drop from 28 down to just 9 members. It'll be a real challenge. Diolch, Cadeirydd, and diolch, Gwynfor.
Diolch, Gwynfor, drosodd i chi, diolch.
Diolch yn fawr. Mae'r mater
Thank you.
yma'n pryderu fi'n aruthrol.
This matter is of great concern to me. One expects that when there is a new government in place, that different decisions are made. However, in this case, I am extremely concerned that, first of all, that the commissioners remain in South Wales. There's, takes away the democracy and accountability that there was previously. It's very disappointing. It's also disappointing that we do not know exactly what will happen, and perhaps things will not be in place until July 2027. As we're aware, that's 2 months following the 2 months following the election. So what's happening between May 27 and July 27? Will the same authority be elected for 2 months, and then we all have to go after 2 months? I think there are lots of questions here. Having heard that officers are discussing this matter with Welsh Government officials, well, I also think that we, as members of the authority, ought to be exerting pressure on the minister, the cabinet minister, to reach a decision very quickly, and to emphasize the need for change. If there is going to be change, though not everyone is happy with it, if there is to be change, it needs to happen earlier on. And I'm also concerned to hear that these additional members are going to be selected at some point before the authority members. Now, does this mean that they will meet one another before they have members of the local authority? Now, I'm really concerned about this matter. There are many questions.
Diolch, Gwynfor. Gareth, you want to come back in?
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Councillor Owen is correct. There are many questions. I'm afraid we don't have as many answers as we do have questions. There are some things we do know. We do know that the legislation has been passed to change the membership and the governance model for the Fire Authority, so that from May next year there will be 9 members. 6 of those will be cabinet members and 3 will be appointed by Welsh Government. As the Chief has said, we don't know the timetable for Welsh Government to appoint the extra 3. There are some practicalities, inevitably, around appointing the 6 constituent councillor representatives. The councils themselves don't have to have their AGM until the end of May. Quite a lot of us will be having our AGMs as late as possible in May. because of course there will have been full elections, and so we don't know what the results will be, and we need to allow ourselves as much time as possible to form a new administration, and therefore to appoint the cabinet members, because it will be one of those cabinet members from each council that will form the new authority. So it's quite possible that we won't know the membership until early June, and then we need to have worked out what the committee structure looks like. We know that we need to have a standards committee, so there will have to be one of those. The expectation, I think, is that we will need to have some form of audit committee in order to comply with SIP for guidance. But beyond that, we have flexibility, and it is and our discretion. And it is that flexibility and discretion that we need to work through over the coming months, so that we have a structure that can carry on the important work that you provide at the moment and the important role that you provide at the moment, as soon as possible, as Councillor Owen suggests, after those elections and after we know the membership of the authority next year.
Thank you, Gav. As has been said, lots of questions at this stage, but not many answers. Going back to the minutes, there's just one other item that I wanted us to report back on. Paragraph 11.3 talks about the pay award discussions that were taking place. Those have been resolved now, and I'm just going to invite ACFO Helen MacArthur to report on that, please. Diolch, Helen.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning, Bondar Powell. I am really pleased to be able to confirm that the pay award for our Grey Book colleagues, that's colleagues who are firefighters, control firefighters as well, was settled at 3.8%. We've been able to put that into the July pay, and that's consistent with the budget process. We did forecast 3.8. What I can say, though, is that the pay award for our Green Book colleagues, so our corporate staff, hasn't yet been agreed. So we've still got a small residual risk, but for the vast majority of our staff, that's now been agreed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Helen. And I did compliment Helen in the executive panel meeting that only North Wales predicted the 3.8% increase. Both Mid and West Wales and South Wales were too optimistic in what they predicted the pay award would be. So that concludes the minutes of the last meeting. So the next item on the agenda is the Chair's report. So you'll have received the quarterly report from myself, which details what myself and the Deputy Chair have been doing in terms of responsibilities and activities. Any questions or comments from anybody in relation to the quarterly report? No, I can't see any hands being raised. So will you just show that you agree with noting the contents, please? Diolch yn fawr. So item number 6 is the Hwb Owen Training Centre update for information, and it's ACFO Justin Evans. Justin, over to you. Diolch.
Diolch, David. Yeah, I've delivered lots of updates on the training centre project in the past, and I guess this is probably the first one following events which really bring sharply into focus the importance of preparation and preparedness, which really is the backbone of what we do here. Whilst there's lots of exciting pictures and coverage on the news, that's probably, we spend a minimal amount of time at incidents, and we spend most of our time in the actual work preparing our staff so they can respond in a professional way. So I just wanted to just put that out there before I provide the update. So this paper provides members with an update on the key risks associated with the Hwb Owen Training Centre project, the mitigations that we've put in place, and the work that is ongoing to strengthen our funding position and the overall case for investment. It remains strategically important for the services project. It is intended to address long-standing limitations in our training estate and provide that modern, safe and sustainable facility for the future that supports that operational competence that I've been speaking about, as well as addressing issues around health and well-being and wider organisational resilience. Members will be aware that we have previously received approval to progress this project to REBA stage 4. The key issue now with that is that stage represents a significant point of commitment for us. In practical terms, it locks in the design solutions and what that will cost. So that is almost, it makes it quite final. And in the absence of secured capital funding for the project, it presents a material risk. This position, therefore, has been reviewed carefully through our own internal project governance arrangements, not because we think that the need or the strategic need has changed, but we must ensure that our next steps are proportionate and that they are properly controlled. So in terms of response to that risk, the project team is actively supporting and exploring funding opportunities across a number of domains. We're doing so on the basis that a project of this scale seems to be unlikely to be funded through a single route. Initial conversations have already taken place with Welsh Government, and we have sent out briefing correspondence to the government and to others. But we have set out basically the service's wider sort of direction and our plans for the development of this training centre. I know certainly there's some offline conversations that have also been taking place. We're going to refresh those conversations with the new administration, and we're going to have some clear emphasis on the ways that we think this project is going to align with any emerging sort of policy priorities. The outline business case, which you've seen a draft copy of, it's a work in progress, and it remains live and it will continue to develop, and that's important because it gives us that chance to keep strengthening that case as new information emerges to us. Members will know that from the early updates that the preferred option was for a centralised, purpose-built facility capable of supporting operational, corporate and multi-agency functions, so bringing in the other agencies in North Wales. And that remains the position at this stage, that there doesn't seem to be any compelling argument to materially reduce the scale or ambition of what we set out to do. When we brought all those various options to you as authority members previously, you were very clear to me as the project lead the direction to take with that, and we are continuing that. So we need to make sure that the business case is as strong and as rounded as it possibly can be, and before we sort of lock in those major commitments which I just mentioned. We have had early conversations with other Category 1 responders about shared use of the site. Although the site, it's a 10-acre site, it seems massive. If you drive past there, it's a really big site. When you start to put, the various elements required to develop across all the domains that we work in, that space quickly is used up. But we are having conversations. We're looking at, as the chief mentioned, we were at the NFCC conference last week, and there was a strong discussion and theme towards community resilience. We definitely see that this site can play a part in that. So that means that it isn't just about the site is going to contribute to what we need in terms of our training and operational preparedness, but it's about that resilience building for partners and working with our local resilience forum and community groups. I know some of you on the call here, you heard me speak about this last week, where we had a benefits workshop here in headquarters, and we had around about 40 attendees at that event, with everything from local authorities. We had the Trunk Road Agency, Fire and Rescue Authority members, we had local education providers, the NHS in Wales, we had other blue light partners, Mountain Rescue. So there was lots of people there. And what we were trying to extract last week was what benefits that we understand fire. We want to know what benefits this facility could provide across the whole range of services that are offered in North Wales. So the project board has considered the risks. We've considered the sort of milestones that we've got ahead of us, and as a mitigation, we took the decision to slow the project down with a short and controlled slowdown of the project of between 4 and 6 months. And the intention with this, it isn't about losing momentum with the project, but it's about making sure we've got enough time for that stakeholder engagement, which I just mentioned, and those funding discussions, which we now need to have, and to work on that business case. So we want to do that before we get to a more committed stage. There is, what we don't want to do is get to a hard stop with this project. We just want to keep moving the project on and building the case of this development for North Wales. We do have to be, I know that there is a compelling case for change, but we need to be realistic that it may not in isolation. We might not be able to secure all the funding required from a single source. And for that reason, we're now considering how a blended approach may need to be developed, potentially including grant funding, low interest borrowing, and any sort of capital support from partners if we can bring partners in. But I'm going to be clear, I'm not asking members to take decisions around committing to funding today, but I think it is really important that we're open about if external funding routes do not materialise, that options, including support from local authorities, would need to be brought back to this environment for a discussion and consideration. But we would do that through our normal and regular budget setting and scrutiny processes. So, the way that we set our usual budget, if we needed authority contributions toward that, we would do that as part of setting our balanced budget. We would only do that on evidence-based and proportionate basis as well. So we would make sure that members had full scrutiny. And I guess that from conversations we've had previously and conversations I've had outside of this environment, that would sound quite concerning to members. And I don't want to understate it, but I want to offer assurance that members can be confident that this is being progressed by a capable team, and that our continued focus is about managing this risk and protecting the authority's position. So I suppose in closing, I just want to sum up by saying, that this project remains important, necessary. The risks are real, particularly around funding, but they're most definitely understood and they're being actively managed. So I'll leave it there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Justin. And yes, as you mentioned, some of us were at the benefits workshop with the partner agencies last week, and it was a really positive experience. A lot of buzz in the room, and people were quite excited about the project. Number of hands being raised. First of all, Councillor Gareth Sandilands. Gareth.
Yeah, thank you. I thought I'd say something as the member champion for on the board. Since the last authority meeting, we've continued to engage with the officers and developed of the Hub Alwen Training Centre project. I've been encouraged really with the refining of the project and ensuring that the modern, flexible and sustainable training facility that meets both current and operational needs. The project team continues to focus on ensuring the business case is robust, the risks are actively managed, and that the value for money remains central to the decision making. There is also continued emphasis on the design of the facility and the supporting of the firefighting development. Multi-agency, as Justin's alluded to, we had a fantastic workshop last week where there was, 40 different organisations. There was a lot of interest in this from across North Wales's organisations, from resilience to, it was quite amazing to see the wellbeing and environmental sustainability being brought up. But as members champion, I've sought assurance that members will continue to receive timely updates as the project continues to progress through the next stages of governance and procurement. I welcome the constructive engagement between members and officers and look forward to the bringing of key update milestones as they are reached. I'd also stress the importance of future-proofing, and the centre is evolving for operational risks, including climate change, which we've already mentioned substantially this morning, and the new firefighting technologies that come out. We are open to consultation at the moment, and I would encourage each and every member on this call to go out to their residents and implore them to come in and seek fill in that survey, that consultation, because we want to make it as meaningful as possible across North Wales, and that is really important. So I'd just like to leave it there, but I want to say once again, thanks to all the team taking part and the authority members that are giving views. Thank you.
Thank you, Gareth. Cynghorydd Arwyn Roberts.
Thank
you very much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would just like to congratulate Justin and his team on the workshop that we had at headquarters on Wednesday. The way in which it was delivered was excellent, and I've learned a great deal. Also, may I echo what Gareth was saying? The consultation is currently ongoing, and I would ask everyone to spread the word to anyone you know to participate in the consultation. It's vital. But one thing I would like to raise, I've been I was liaising with various organisations that were there on Wednesday, and their response to the presentation was excellent. I'm from Caernarfon. I'm not aware of the location. People ask me where it is, but I'm saying it's in St Asaph somewhere. But where? Well, I'm not entirely sure where. So this is what I'd truly like to know, exactly where it is. Because we're discussing something here now that we don't have all the information. I would ask for anyone who would like to see where it is that they're invited, because I just know it's in St Asaph, and I would really like if someone could be able to guide us on this. But nonetheless, a huge congratulations to the team that gave that fantastic presentation, and everyone left the workshop with such excellent responses. Yes, I'm sure we can arrange a site visit for members in due course.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My main concern has been the finances with this project, getting sufficient funding without having to rely on local authority support. Because if we do have to rely on local authority support, for example, Flintshire's budget for 25-26 was 448.9 million, of which total unearmarked reserves are 16.76 million, or less than 4% rainy day money. Where's the funding going to come from?
Chief?
Okay. This is very much what we are currently investigating. And as Justin said in his presentation, we now recognise that it won't be all from grant funding from Welsh Government, but what it could be is a blended approach from both grants through a number of different sources to low-cost borrowing, and we are talking about to Welsh Government about whether they could support the cost of borrowing, but ultimately that also might require to put through the usual budget setting process, an element to be supported from the local authorities. Now, that is something that we've been trying to avoid, but I think realistically that needs to be part of the budget discussion, which will take place this autumn and spread over probably 3 or 4 years. It's the key issue around this project. I think everybody recognises it's absolutely essential. We need to have this built, but it's getting that blended approach to funding.
Thank you, Anthony, for that easy question that you just posed. I think the reality is that it's really difficult for us to know the direction of travel at the moment until we get a clear answer from Welsh Government as to what extent they will support this project. We are trying to move those conversations forward as quickly as possible, but we're not in that place as yet. And until we get to that place, we won't know exactly what sort of the blended funding model that the Chief has referred to would look like. Helen, do you want to come in?
Thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge Councillor Wren's concerns and also to reiterate what the Chief has said. The Budget Scrutiny Working Group, we've dedicated a single meeting to detailed modelling around the training centre. So it's to give assurance to the Fire Authority that when the budget is presented, that work will have been undertaken, looking at all of the options, the blended approach, and ultimately any impact on the levy. So it is something that we're looking at, and we will take forward through the Budget Scrutiny Working Group.
Anthony, are you okay with those answers? Yeah, great, thank you. I can't see any other hands being raised, so I'm going to move to the recommendations. And it is recommended that members note the current risks and mitigations associated with the Hub Owen Training Centre project. Note the proposed adjustment to the programme to allow additional time for funding and stakeholder engagement. And note that no funding commitment is sought at this stage, but that future proposals may be brought for members' consideration if external funding routes cannot be secured. Can I have a proposal that we accept those recommendations? Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Ian. Will you all show that you agree, please? Diolch yn fawr. That's been passed. It's coming up to 10:30. I'm going to suggest that we do have a comfort break now because we've still got a long way to go, but we've been, discussing matters now for an hour and a half. So I suggest that we, at 10:40 prompt, I suggest you keep the links open and just turn off your camera and your microphones. And as I say, we'll resume at 10:40 prompt. Diolch pawb. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, Chair.
Hello there.
Hi, we've just had apologies from Councillor Paul Cunningham. He's unable to join us for the second half as he's having technical difficulties.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks for letting us know.
Diolch.
Chair, can I also just note then before the recording starts that the next item, the biodiversity, is going to be presented by Elgan.
Okay, and what about the estate strategy?
Elgan et al.
Well, croeso nôl pawb, welcome back everybody. It is 10:41, so we'll resume now the second half of the agenda. So on to item number 7, which is the Biodiversity Annual Update for Assurance. And I think, Elgan, it's you that's presenting this. Diolch, Elgan.
Good morning, thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. I'm happy to provide this update on the progress against the authority's Biodiversity Action Plan for the period 2025 to 2028. The plan was approved by the authority in October 2025. The purpose of today's item is to provide members with the latest information on the progress towards achieving the plan's objectives and to provide assurance that the service continues to operate in accordance with its statutory duties in relation to maintaining and improving biodiversity. I'm pleased to confirm that good progress has been made during the first reporting period. 5 of the 10 goals have now been completed and work continues on the remaining 5 actions. Several important milestones have been achieved as set out in the report, but I would like to draw your attention to a few of them today. Biodiversity training has been provided to the service's leadership team. The ash tree disease control plan is now in force, and a net improvement to biodiversity principle has been adopted for all new capital projects. In addition to these policy actions, practical improvements can be seen across the estate. Areas of grass in Trail and Llanfair Fechan have been turned into wildflower meadows, and biodiversity improvement projects are also underway in Llangollen, Colwyn Bay and Bala. New features have been installed, including 48 nest boxes for swallows and an owl box in Bala. Before I conclude, I would like to thank Tim and the teams across the service who have contributed to this work thus far. Thank you.
Can I echo the thanks to Tim Christensen, the Environment and Climate Change Manager, for his excellent work in relation to this area. At the actual benefits Hwb Owen workshop last week, I was talking to a senior member for Natural Resources Wales who was highly complimentary of the work that Tim is doing. So it's good to acknowledge that. Any questions or comments, please? I can't see any hands being raised. It is just an update. Can I have somebody to recommend that we accept the recommendation on the progress? Thank you, Gareth. Thank you, Charlie. Will you all show that you agree? Diolch yn fawr. So that's been passed. So we now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is back to you, Elgan, for the estate strategy report. Diolch.
It is. Diolch yn fawr. I'm pleased to present this report introducing the authority's estate strategy for 2026 to 2036. The purpose of today's report is to provide members with an overview of the strategy, which sets out a long-term framework for how we will manage, invest in, and modernise the services estate over the next 10 years. As members will be aware, our estate is one of the service's most important assets, which supports emergency response, training, and community engagement, to name just a few. The strategy has been developed following the most comprehensive condition survey undertaken in recent years, covering all of our properties. The finding confirms that while a significant proportion of our buildings remain in good condition, many require investment over the coming years. The strategy therefore provides a clear and evidence-based approach to allocate resources and ensure investment is directed to help deliver the greatest operational, safety, and organisational benefits. I'd like to highlight a few key aspects of the paper. Firstly, it confirms that the current distribution of fire stations across North Wales remains appropriate and continues to support effective emergency response. Building on the authority's decision to retain its existing network of fire stations following the ECR, the strategy focuses on maintaining, improving, and modernising the estate to ensure it remains fit for purpose and capable of supporting service delivery into the future. Secondly, the strategy places a strong emphasis on improving well-being, operational effectiveness, and firefighter health. This includes addressing contamination management, improving welfare facilities, and ensuring our buildings are inclusive and accessible for modern and diverse workforce. Thirdly, the strategy established a structured programme of investments with early priorities including Bangor, Dolgellau, and Porthmadog Fire Station. Members will also note the long-standing facilities management SLA with North Wales Police will conclude in March 2027 by mutual agreement. This marks the end of a successful partnership that has delivered significant benefits to both organisations over many years. I would like to take this opportunity to recognise and thank our colleagues at North Wales Police for their professionalism, commitment, and support throughout the period. In addition, members will note the continued importance of the proposed Hope Awen Training and Development Centre, as we've heard earlier today from ACFO Evans, which remains the service's preferred long-term solution for training and infrastructure. To conclude and to summarise, this strategy provides a clear vision for a safe, inclusive, operational effective and environmentally responsible estate that is fit to support the service of the communities of North Wales for the next generation. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr, Elgan. Perhaps I could start with the first question. The report says that around 32.6% of properties have a condition rating indicating urgent repairs or replacement works. So what we're saying is a third of the estate needs urgent repairs or replacement works. Is that something that we should be overly concerned about? How does that sort of correspond to other fire and rescue authorities?
So following the condition report and the survey we've had during 25-26 financial year, all that information has been collated into a central matrix, which looks at your fabrical, electrical and mechanical. And it then gives a score to rate our properties based on 1 being good condition, 2 being adequate, and 3 requiring works. As part of budget setting, we've now got a clear process or plan in place to be able to address that backlog maintenance. And within the report, it identifies that approximately 3.5 million will be required. And there's a phasing in there as well. So you can, over the next financial year, we're indicating £1 million. The following financial year, £1 million, and then that backlog maintenance then reduces. So they're not urgent, critical from a health and safety well-being. It's to ensure that the property is maintained in a good condition for the future.
Diolch. Just before I bring the chief, and the other part of my question is, I mean, are we an outlier in terms of having so many buildings that require urgent attention, or in fact, are we in a better place than other fire and rescue authorities? I don't know if you want to answer that, or if the chief wants to come in.
I believe there's a national piece of work going on in terms of estates maintenance and backlog across the fire service in the whole of UK. I have not seen the outcome of that, but if there's something, I hope we'll be able to get some benchmarking information following that.
Yeah, Chief, do you want to come in?
Yes, Elgan is right. This is an issue that all fire and rescue services across the UK are experiencing. And I imagine Helen will come in to talk about one of the reasons is the fact that fire and rescue authorities do not have a capital allocation. I can't remember when the last time it was taken away, but it was always obviously over a decade ago. And that means that any maintenance, any improvements has been at the expense of the revenue budget, because we borrow the money and we then need to pay the interest on that. So this is actually a national issue. I would agree with Elgan's assessment that yes, there's work to do, but because of the service level agreement that we've had with North Wales Police over the last 20 years, we are probably in a better place than a number of fire and rescue services across the UK. Doesn't mean that we haven't got a lot to do, and we need to future-proof our estates. I cut across you there, Helen. Was there anything that you wanted to add to that?
No, not really. I sit on the National Finance Committee, and it's a standing item on that agenda. I think every fire and rescue service is in the same position with an ageing estate, the need to modernise for contamination purposes, and lack of capital funding. So I know a huge amount of work is being done, and we're definitely part of that. But we're currently not an outlier. But it doesn't mean that it's still an uncomfortable position to be. But I think what the estate strategy will now do is provide a framework against which we allocate funds to make sure that in terms of deriving that value for the money that we spend, we can have that absolute confidence that we're putting it into the right place. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments from members? Can't see any hands being raised, so the recommendation is that we endorse the 10-year strategy that has been presented to us. Kind of a proposer, please. Thank you, Charlie. Seconder. Thank you, Mark. Will you all show that you're in agreement? Diolch yn fawr. So we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Welsh Language Annual Report for 2025-26, and it's good to have Natalie Jones with us. Natalie, are you presenting this report? Diolch yn fawr.
Yndw, diolch. Bore da pawb, a diolch Cadeirydd.
Good morning to all. Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present this report again this year. It's the annual monitoring report on the Welsh language standards. So this report provides us with an outline as to how the service has complied with these standards, and also it mentions how we've monitored, promoted and developed the language within the service. So I'll just like to pick out a few highlights. So the demand for Welsh language services has increased. You'll see on page 7 of the report itself. We have been looking at the calls received by the control room. They've increased year on year. It's dropped a little this year. However, as you can see, in 2020, there were 504 Welsh language calls, and this has now increased to 1,364 this year. It was somewhat higher last year. So what this demonstrates is that there's been an increase of 150% over 5 years, and it reflects the success of the work undertaken by the staff in the control room. And what we do as a service, usage of Welsh within the prevention department still features strongly. A total of 1,927 inspections, where it was noted that Welsh was the preferred language. This is something of an increase since the previous year. Also, we've made improvements to the recording system. The aim in this respect is to strengthen the quality of the data. So by now, we have added a question which asks whether Welsh was their preferred language and whether the inspection was also conducted through the medium of Welsh. Moving on, we note that 90.9% of staff members have Welsh language skills at level 1 or higher. When we look at levels 4 and 5, so fluent staff members, it increases to 40.4%, and this is also higher than the previous year. There weren't any formal complaints received over the past year, which is very positive for us. And also, there were a number of initiatives conducted, including language improvement sessions to fluent Welsh speakers, but those who were keen to improve their written skills. And also, we hold panel discourse sessions every month, and also we had 2 Tanio Sgwrs sessions this year. Some 40 staff members attended these. If I may move on to opportunities for the future, we are looking at Learn Welsh opportunities for full-time and on-call staff, so that this offers fair access to all of these opportunities. We will continue with our internal initiatives to boost confidence with daily usage of Welsh, and also we're looking to develop more Welsh language promotion activities externally and have more engagement activities in fire stations to encourage more members of the public to use their Welsh when they get in touch with us. That is the report, and there's a recommendation also to be approved. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Natalie. It's a really positive report showing a lot of progress in various areas, which is so nice to see. Councillor Gwynfor Owen. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and I'd like to thank Natalie for the report. It's a really heartening report, and it is testimony to the importance of having such a strategy. It's lovely to hear that a number of people contacting us through the medium of Welsh has increased 150%. It just proves that people want to get in touch with us in Welsh. It's not just something you see on paper. People truly want to contact us in Welsh, and this is proof of this. And were it not for this strategy, this would not have happened. So thank you to everyone who's been involved with this, and I shall look forward to seeing even further progress in the future. Thank you. Thank you, Gwynfor. Councillor Austin Roberts. Thank you. May I begin for apologising for joining the meeting late. I had some logging problems. Yes, this report is to be commended. The progress as regards the usage of the language within the authority is to be commended. And also, may I just make a quick comment? I attended the Urdd Eisteddfod in Ynys Môn, and one of the people that I saw around the Maes was the Chief Executive, Dawn, and it was very nice to see her there, and she looked as if she was having a good time. Also, I'd like to mention, since becoming a member of this authority, I must say that the attitude of all the main officers towards the language has been commendable, and I am very grateful to those people. That's all I have to say. And I should like to propose that we approve the recommendation. Thank you for your comments, Austin. Councillor Alwyn Roberts. Yes, I echo what Austin and Gwynfor have said. I'd like to congratulate you on this report. What we have before us today is extremely heartening, just to see the progress and the increase in the number of Welsh language calls from 504 to 1,546, which is really heartening. And I also see, as Councillor Austin just mentioned there, it is good to see the service being represented at the Urdd Eisteddfod. I attended the stall on a few times, and it is very heartening to see this. And I'd just like to ask Natalie, how many staff members are learning Welsh within their service? Is it 200-300? I mean, do you have a figure there, Natalie, as to how many are learning Welsh? Well, I'll come in then. I don't have specific figures because in a way, since we have a level 2 basis, we say if people haven't attained level 2, they're still learners, and everyone's on a learning continuum, their own learning continuum. But we do have staff members who are subscribed to learning Welsh through an app, and a handful of these people every year takes 12 months out to learn, and also staff members attend Welsh language courses. We just had one course last year, but this year there'll be 2 because there are more opportunities for staff members, be they on-call staff or full-time staff members. In the past, it's been difficult for them to attend Welsh courses. However, we've tried to make it easier for them. So I foresee that the numbers will be higher come the next report. Thank you, and huge congratulations once again, and please continue with this amazing work. Well done, you.
Yes, thank you, Cadeirydd. My question is regarding, and thank you very much for the report. It's very extensive. I want to know what you're doing with Welsh organisations, particularly Mentor Iaith, Ergotebau Cymru, Merched y Wawr, and other organisations to embed it. So it's not just a one-off turning up to the Earth. It's throughout the year, 24/7. You know, how are we getting embedded? But these are organisations that are dedicated to the Welsh language, you know, and we should be, you know, partnering with them very strongly. Thank you.
Hear about what's going on day to day for promoting language in every different authority, and it gives us a chance to be part, whereas maybe if we weren't on these forums, we wouldn't know what was going on, and we wouldn't be considered as a organisation that would want to be a part of it. But we do work with the Mentor Iaith, and as I mentioned, one of the future developments is to work more with partner organisations that are external. We will be holding, it's currently just planned for Ynys Môn. We will be holding a sort of an open day in the station there, and we'll be working with Mudiad Meithrin, Mentor Iaith, and other partner organisations as well. But yeah, it's definitely something that's worthwhile to make sure that is embedded in everything we do.
Thank you, Natalie. It's really good. When dealing with recruitment of new volunteers, particularly our retained volunteers, we need to be addressing Welsh language first base young people, and that is, I think, to see that there is a future for speaking in Welsh in the language, and then they can go forward in a career basis. So recruitment is a really important thing with the young people. So thank you.
Thank you, Gareth. I can't see any other hands being raised, so I'll move to the recommendations. It's recommended that members 1, approve the Welsh Language Standards Annual Monitoring Report for 2025-26 for publication on the authority's website, and note the service's intention to publicise the document as noted in Standards 155, 161 and 167. Can I have a proposer, please? Diolch Arwyn. Diolch Gwynfor. Will you all show you agree? Diolch yn fawr. A diolch fawr unwaith eto I Natalie am yr adroddiad. So
thanks, Natalie, for the report again.
The next item on the agenda, which is the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Performance Assessment Progress Report for 2025-26. And it's the Chief, I think, that's presenting this. Thank you, Chief.
Diolch yn fawr. Following on from our annual report against Welsh language standards, this is our annual report for 25-26, which shows the progress against our 5-year equality, diversity and inclusion strategy. I think it really gives a demonstration again about all that we are involved in, and just how broad the activities are around inclusion. This report was taken to the executive panel, and I just have one correction to the covering paper, where at paragraph 10, it talks about our improvement against the mean gender pay gap, and we are improving, so that's good news. But the improvement is not quite as good as the covering paper. The figure that is correct, and it's in the actual report itself, is that it's improved from 8.29% to 7.32%. And that's pleasing to see because it is well below the current UK average, which is at 13%. So the report sets out what we have done through this year against the 4 themes. And also at the end of the report, we look ahead to 26-27, where we intend to complete a review that we're doing into equality impact assessment practices. We are going to build on work that we've done in the past by introducing leadership training on neurodiversity and reasonable adjustments. We're going to continue to promote autism awareness training because an incident can be very, very stressful for anybody, but if someone involved has autism, then our firefighters, our officers need to know how to support that person in a particular way. We'll be publishing our gender pay gap action plan, because although we're making progress, we can always improve. We'll be quality checking our data on disability and ethnicity, because from next year, in addition to the gender pay gap report, we will be publishing a pay gap report of those criteria. We'll continue our positive action recruitment activity, because as you know, we are constantly recruiting for retained duty firefighters. And I would just like to point out that we are recruiting at the moment, and the interest, because of the wildfires, has been immense, and we're getting a number of people that are submitting applications, which is just really, really pleasing to see. And then lastly, we will continue to support our staff networks, and we intend to establish a carer and parents network. Happy to take any comments or questions and then move to the recommendations, Chair.
Thank you, Chief. And as you've highlighted, a lot of good practice taking place, which is evidenced in the report. And as you also said, it has already been considered by the executive panel. Any comments or questions for the Chief? I can't see any hands being raised. So in that case, we'll move to the recommendation, which is that we approve the publication of the annual EDI report for 2025-26 on the services website. Can I have somebody to propose, please? Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Gareth. Will you all show that you agree? Diolch yn fawr. So we move on to item number 11, which is the pensions arrangements for approval report from ACFO MacArthur. Diolch, Helen.
Diolch yn fawr. I'm pleased to present an update on the work that we're undertaking to consider the future arrangements for the governance and management of the Firefighters Pension Scheme. This item comes to members following consideration by the local pension board earlier this month, and the focus on the paper is on how we can strengthen the way pension functions across Wales. This is in direct response to the growing complexity and the pressures within the systems. The members of the local pension board endorsed the paper, noting the principle of improvement whilst retaining local accountability and engagement. The current governance framework is really clear and well established, and the Fire and Rescue Authority acts as the scheme manager, with the day-to-day delivery undertaken by the service. In turn, support is provided by the local pension board, which includes membership of both employees and employers. And this continues to provide a strong foundation for compliance and oversight. However, and importantly, the operating environment has changed significantly. The pension arrangements have become much more complex in recent years. This has largely been driven by legislative changes and national legal cases. This has not only increased demand on a relatively small team, but has required detailed specialist knowledge by the local pension board itself, who must maintain a high level of technical ability. Alongside this, ongoing legal matters, particularly those linked to age-related changes and retained firefighter entitlements, continue to require a very detailed case-by-case work. This has added to workload pressures and increased the need for specialist expertise and also a consistent approach, not only across the service, but with it across Wales. I'd like to assure members that we've already taken steps to improve our resilience. We've been collaboratively working with South Wales since about 2023, and that has included the sharing of technical expertise. And for us, that's delivered clear benefits in terms of consistency and support. Building on that, the local pension board has endorsed the proposal to go further and explore a tri-service approach across Wales. And the ambition is to improve the effectiveness, strengthen our resilience, and create greater consistency for scheme members. And this could range from closer joint working through to more formal shared arrangements, including the potential for a single local pension board structure in Wales. Early engagement with the Welsh Government has been very positive, and there's a clear alignment across all three Welsh services on the need for change. It's a really significant piece of work for us. It will require careful design, including the alignment of policies and the governance arrangements, and also a full consideration of the financial, legal and workforce implications. However, it also presents an opportunity for us in Wales to take a leading position in developing a more sustainable model for pension administration. I would like to emphasise that any changes will be subject to appropriate scrutiny, value for money assessment and equality considerations, ensuring that standards, including the Welsh language requirements, are maintained. Today, you're being asked to support the local pension board's endorsement of this direction of travel and to approve the establishment of a work stream to consider this further. Thank you, Chair, and I'm happy to take any queries or questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments in relation to the report? David, bore da. Diolch.
Bore da, Cadeirydd. Llongyfarchiadau I chi ar...
Congratulations to the Vice Chair and the Chair and others for being re-elected. And just to confirm, I was present at the extraordinary meeting of the Pension Board that considered this, and the scheme was explained fairly to the members. It received unanimous support in the local Pension Board. I believe we were somewhat concerned that the collaboration didn't always work effectively, and I mentioned some other examples where collaboration has not happened for the benefit of everybody. But what we have here is a scheme to look to work together across Wales in order to ensure better resilience and to be more sustainable, but not to make any decision at this juncture. We are currently planning and researching, and we are looking to protect salaries and local services as part of this scheme. And with a single board for Wales, I think this is prudent. Before I started with the fire service, I would not have expected one board and one employer, but one board across Wales would ensure more expertise, and as expected, we'd have a clean slate. And also in the context of the changes for the future, it's just common sense. So I support the recommendations, and I suggest that the committee approves the recommendations. And Helen, I'm sure, will come back with an update on this during the year. Thanks, David, for your comments.
I don't see any other hands being raised, so we'll move to the recommendation, which is members are asked to approve the local pension board endorsement of the proposal to establish a tri-service work stream for collaboration across Wales to consider opportunities to improve effectiveness and resilience of pension functions. Can I have a proposer, please? Diolch, John Brynmore, seconder. Diolch. And if you all show that you agree, diolch yn fawr, that's been passed. So we move on to item 12, which is the Social Partnership Duty Report for 2026-27, which is for approval. I think it's ACFO Anthony Jones who's presenting this. Diolch, Ant.
Diolch, thank you. This report is presented to members to seek approval for the submission of the annual Social Partnership Duty report to the Social Partnership Council for scrutiny, and also for us to subsequently publicise it on our website. So the Social Partnership and Public Procurement Wales Act 2023 placed social partnership on a statutory footing in Wales and introduced a statutory social partnership duty for specific public bodies that came into force on the 1st of April 2024. That duty requires public bodies, including the authority, to seek consensus and compromise with recognised trade unions when setting wellbeing objectives, and also when making strategic decisions about the reasonable steps to be taken to deliver those objectives. As part of that statutory requirement, the authority must prepare an annual report, which is presented today, setting how it has complied with that duty. And this is the second iteration, the second annual report that we've presented on your behalf. The report must either be agreed with the authority's recognised trade unions or include a statement explaining why the agreement has not been reached. In this case, the requirements of the Act have been discharged through the Joint Consultation and Negotiation Committee, which Helen chairs, including the agreement of the content of the report itself. So members are therefore asked to note the statutory context and the work undertaken to comply with the social partnership duty, to approve the annual social partnership duty report for submission to the Social Partnership Council and placing on the authority's website. This will ensure the authority meets its reporting obligations under the Act and demonstrates its continued commitment to effective social partnership working with the recognised trade unions. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you.
Thank you, Ant. And just for the information of members, members will be aware that both myself and the Chief had been regularly attending the Social Partnership Forum meetings that the previous Cabinet Secretary had chaired. We're still waiting from Welsh Government officials as to whether or not the new administration will continue those meetings. Any questions or comments from members, please? I can't see any hands being raised, so it's just a case of us approving this report, which is, as has been pointed out, we have to on a statutory basis provide annually. Gareth Sandlands, are you proposing? Diolch yn fawr. Seconder, thank you. Austin, diolch yn fawr. Will you show that you agree? Diolch yn fawr. That's been passed. So we move on to item number 14, which is the Internal Audit Annual Report for 2025-26. And Helen, I think it's back to you for this.
Forgot my microphone for a second. Yes, it is indeed, Chair. I'm pleased to present this item, which is the Head of Internal Audit's opinion and annual report for 2025-6. This was considered by the Audit Committee at its meeting in June as part of the suite of papers for the full year governance. It supports the requirement to review the effectiveness of internal control and directly informs the annual governance statement. The report provides the confirmation by the head of internal audit that a substantial assurance opinion has been given, and that this means that there is a good system of internal control in place. And this supports the authority's objectives, and these controls are generally being applied consistently. This is a really strong position, and importantly, the work undertaken by internal audit during the year has not identified any significant weaknesses that would impact on the annual governance statement. The audit programme has been delivered as planned and focuses on the authority's key risk areas. In total, 21 recommendations were raised during the year, all of which have been considered and accepted by management with clear follow-up arrangements in place. Encouragingly, there's also been really good progress in implementing previous recommendations, demonstrating a positive control environment within the service and a good management response. There are some areas for continued focus, and in particular, we received a limited assurance in relation to equipment asset management, and work is ongoing to strengthen arrangements in this area. And we're focusing on improvements that are still required to fully embed our risk management arrangements. The report also confirms that the internal audit service itself operates in line with professional standards and remains fully compliant. And again, this provides further confidence in the robustness of the assurance provided. Looking ahead into this financial year, the audit work will focus on financial sustainability, organisational change, partnership working, and maintaining workforce capacity and resilience. I'd like to acknowledge the work of our internal audit colleagues and officers across the service in supporting this programme and responding positively to recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Helen, and apologies to members. I noticed that I've jumped item number 13, which we'll go back to next after we've concluded with this item. And as you say, this has been considered already by the Audit Committee. Any comments or questions for Helen, please? No, in that case, we'll move to the recommendation. Can I have a proposer, please?
Recommend it.
Thank you, Gareth. A seconder? So thank you, Ian. If you all show the diolch yn fawr. So we will now consider item 13, which is the annual performance monitoring report for 2025-26. And it's back to you, Ant, for this one. Thank you.
Diolch, thank you. So this report is presented to the Fire Authority members to provide an overview of the service's performance for the 25-26 financial year. So covering that period, 1st of April 2025 to the 31st of March 2026. The performance measures are aligned to the 5 key principles set out within our community risk management plan and provide members with an assessment of the current performance, emerging trends and areas requiring continued focus. Overall, the report highlights a number of positive developments. Workforce attendance has improved with overall sickness absence reduced, despite an increase in total staffing. Both short-term and long-term absences have reduced indicating continued progress in our absence management. Prevention activity has also exceeded targets, with over 19,000 safe and well checks completed, and a greater proportion of that activity directed towards those higher risk households, reflecting the more targeted and risk-based approach that I know we've briefed members on previously. The report also identifies area of operational pressure and risk. Incident demand has increased during the year with 6,611 incidents attending, representing a rise against the previous year, but also the 3-year average. Fire incidents were a key driver of this increase, particularly in the first half of the year. While accidental dwelling fires have fallen to their lowest since 2017-18, we have unfortunately seen an increase in injuries and also the occurrence of 2 fatalities, which underline the continued importance of our vulnerability-focused prevention activity, particularly in relation to cooking safety and smoke exposure. Members are also advised advised to note the additional analysis requested by the service leadership team in relation to the daytime appliance availability and wildfire reporting. This analysis provides greater assurance on the operational resilience and supports more consistent interpretation of those performance trends over time. In light of the information presented, members are asked to note the content of the performance monitoring report and the key issues identified within. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you.
Thank you, Ant. And as you rightly say, a number of very positive things to pick up on the report. And from my perspective, especially to see the increase in the targeted sort of success in sort of the high-risk safe and well checks. That's very pleasing to note. Any comments or questions from members, please? Councillor Ian Hodge. Ian?
Thanks, Chair. I given the energy companies seem to be promoting using appliances during the night, for cheaper energy, do you think there should be more emphasis on making sure that when they do so, that they have proper means in place with regards to fire alarms, smoke detectors, etc.? And should we be trying to promote that residents do actually install these items when they start using appliances through the night? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hodge. In many ways, the advice the energy companies are promoting goes against our advice in that we would recommend that members of the public and ourselves don't use appliances overnight, because that's obviously when you're most at risk, most vulnerable, in your lowest state of awareness. And unfortunately, appliances are a proportionate cause of our incidents. So in many ways, that does almost conflict with our advice. We always recommend that people use appliances when they are awake in the building, don't leave them unattended, and remain vigilant. We would obviously continue, as we do, promote the active use of smoke alarms and the fitting of smoke alarms, which we continue to offer as that free offer across all of North Wales. And as the data has suggested, we are exceeding our own targets in that regard. We would continue to support the fitting of smoke alarms and the practices we support, which is relation to not leaving appliances unattended, whether that's during the day or certainly when you're most vulnerable at night.
Thank you, Ian. Any other questions or comments? I can't see any hands being raised. So the report is for noting. Can I have a proposer, please, and seconder? Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Mark. Also, diolch yn fawr. So we move on to item number 15, which is the draft annual governance statement for 2025-26. And I think, Ant, it's back to you, is it?
It is indeed, yes, thank you. This report presents the draft annual governance statement for 25-26 and provides assurance to the authority that we are continuing to maintain effective governance, risk management and internal control arrangements in accordance with the statutory duties we are held under. The preparation and publication of the statement forms part of the authority's responsibilities under the Accounts and Audit Wales Regulations 2014 and reflects those principles set out in the CIPRA Solence framework of delivering good governance in local government. It supports the authority's wider legislative obligations, including operating in accordance with the relevant law and regulation, safeguarding public funds, securing economy, efficiency and effectiveness in the use of resources, and also demonstrating alignment with the Welsh legislation and policy expectations, including the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act and the National Fire and Rescue Framework for Wales. The statement confirms that governance arrangements have continued to strengthen during 25-26, including enhanced oversight on risk, performance and programme delivery, and the establishment of a cultural board in response to the CREST advisory review. It also identifies the focused programme of improvements for 26-27 to ensure continued compliance assurance and organisational improvement. The annual governance statement, this draft annual governance statement was presented to the Audit Committee and the Executive Panel on the 15th of June. Members sought assurance on governance, management capability, safeguarding, performance reporting, stakeholder engagement, project management, and particularly around the training centre. So members are therefore asked to note the contents of the annual governance statement for 25-26 and approve its submission to Audit Wales in line with our statutory requirements. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you.
Thank you, Ant. Any questions or comments, please? No, I can't. And as has been pointed out, it has been through the Audit Committee. So can I have a proposer to accept the proposal? Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Ian. Will you all show that you're in agreement, please? Thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr. So we move on to the next item of agenda, which is the final annual statement of accounts for 2025-26. And I think, Elgan, is it back to yourself?
Good morning, Chair. I'm going to pick this one up if I may.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you. It's the annual statement of accounts for 2025-26. And this, again, is a key stage in the authority's governance cycle. And these are required to comply with the account and audit regulations. It brings together, or the document in the pack today brings together our financial performance and position for the year and links directly to the annual governance statement that you've just received. Members will also recall that the draft accounts were presented to the Audit Committee for scrutiny and endorsed by the Executive Panel during the meetings of the 15th of June. Although the audit is not yet fully concluded, it is progressing well, and to date, the position remains stable and consistent with the version issued in your pack. I'm really pleased to confirm that there are no material issues identified to date that would necessitate the change of the overall financial position and performance presented previously to members. We continue to demonstrate strong financial management, identifying a small surplus of £121,000 for the year. We have usable reserves that have increased to 11.8 million, and they provide resilience against future pressures and indeed should we experience higher than anticipated activity during the year. We've also maintained a sound and stable financial position despite ongoing cost pressures. The audit work completed so far has resulted in only minor presentational adjustments and a small uncorrected item, none of which are material or impact the overall position. Subject to the completion of the remaining audit procedures, the expectation remains that an unqualified opinion will be issued. However, this will be formally confirmed once all audit work is fully complete. I'd like to thank Audit Wales colleagues and the Finance Department for their continued work in progressing the audit to this stage. In closing, members are being asked to note the current position, recognising that the work is still ongoing, and confirm the delegation of the final approved statement of accounts to the Executive Panel at its meeting in September. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Helen. Any comments or questions from members, please? David, diolch.
Just cadarnhau, dealltwriaeth fi o sefyllfa.
I'd just like to confirm my understanding of the situation. The draft statements have been seen by the Audit Committee. They were in draft form at that time. But the audit, to all intents and purposes, has been completed, and there hasn't been any material change to the figures. But Audit Wales have not completed their work. They are yet to grant us with a certificate, so we're not in a position to ask you to approve this today. This is a duty for the authority, and on this occasion, lest this go on for another few months, I support Helen's recommendation for the authority to delegate powers to the Audit Committee to approve the final version and to receive the Audit Wales reports in September.
Any other questions or comments? No, I can't see any hands being raised, so can I have somebody to propose that we accept the recommendations in that case? Diolch, John Brynmore. Thank you, Jeff, if you all show your agreement. So we move on to item number 17, which I think is back to you, Helen, then Treasury Management Update for 2025-26.
That's back to me. We've had a bit of a change. Apologies, Jay. I'll take this one.
No problem. Diolch, Elgan.
Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you. This report forms an important part of our governance arrangement and provides assurance to members that our borrowing and investment activities have been managed in accordance with the SIPFA code and the Treasury Management Strategy approved by the authority in April 2025. The report has already been considered and scrutinised by the Audit Committee on the 15th of June, and the committee was assured that all the activities had applied with prudent indicators. So the report is therefore here today for the authority to approve. I'm pleased to confirm that all the Treasury management activities have remained within the limits set, and there have been no failures by financial institutions where the authority had invested. At the end of the year, the authority's borrowing was 15.8 million, which is lower than the previous year, and our net borrowing remains below our capital requirements. This shows that we continue to follow a careful and prudent approach to financing capital investment. Although the economic environment has remained uncertain, the portfolio has been stably managed throughout the year with support from Arding Close. Looking to the future, further borrowing will be required to support the capital programme, and we'll continue to monitor funding costs and the market carefully. So in conclusion, this report provides assurance that the Treasury management activities have been carried out appropriately and in accordance with the strategy and requirements. Thank you.
Any questions or comments, please? David, dros ydych chi unwaith eto, diolch yn fawr.
Yes, I see that the members are quiet, and they're usually silent when it comes to this topic. This report takes a look back at the last year, and the situation as per paragraph 5 is a satisfactory one. You have received a report as an authority looking forward to the next 2 years, so I support the recommendation to approve this report.
So, can I have a proposal that we accept the report, please? Diolch Austin, diolch Gareth. Will you all show that you agree? Diolch yn fawr, hwnna wedi pasio. So we move on to item 18. We're on the final stretch, members. We're on the final stretch now. Item 18, Standards Committee Annual Report. Matt, I think it's over to you for this one, please. Thank you, Matt.
It is. Diolch, Cadeirydd. So each year the Standards Committee prepares an annual report, which is presented to the Fire Authority for information. This paper presents the annual report for the year 2025-26. The annual report was approved by the Standards Committee at their meeting on the 14th of April, and it outlines the functions that the Standards Committee undertake and provides information about the work that they have undertaken during the preceding year. That includes review of certain codes and protocols, considering findings from the Public Services Ombudsman Wales, as well as her annual report, and monitoring member attendance. Chair, the recommendation is that members receive and note the content of the report, of the annual report for 2025-26, and that a copy is provided to the Public Services Ombudsman for Wales. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Matt. I mean, basically, it is a report for our information. Unless there are any questions or comments, can we move straight to the proposals to accept recommendations, please? Thank you, Ian. Diolch, Anne. Will you all show that you agree? Diolch yn fawr. And then back to you again, Matt, for item number 19. Please, proposed updates to the Members' Code of Conduct and Local Resolution Procedure.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So, as I mentioned just then, codes and protocols are reviewed by the Standards Committee on a rolling basis. Each authority term, each one of those codes and protocols are reviewed. And in 2025-26, the Standards Committee reviewed both the Members' Code of Conduct and the Local Resolution Procedure and has recommended some changes. The paper summarises the matters considered by the Standards Committee and its recommendations. But in short, the proposed updates to the Code of Conduct reflect changes to the National Model Code. There is a provision within the code that members must carry out their duties and responsibilities with due regard to the principle that there should be equality of opportunity for all people, regardless of protected characteristics. Previously, the Model Code included a list of specific protected characteristics, whereas it now incorporates the protected characteristics as defined within the Equality Act 2010, as well as social economic circumstances. The updates to the local resolution procedure that reflect recommendations arising from a working group The recommended changes and reasons for those recommended changes are summarised in my report, Chair. Chair, the recommendation is that the Fire Authority approves the changes to both the Code of Conduct and the Local Resolution Procedure, and authorises the clerk or deputy clerk to amend the Constitution to give effect to those changes. Again, happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Matt. Are there any questions or comments from members, please? I can't see any hands being raised. In that case, can I have a proposer for the recommendations? Thank you, Ian. Seconder. Thank you, Jeff. Will you all show that you... Diolch yn fawr. That's been passed. So we move on to on the agenda today under urgent matters, which is the draft supplementary remuneration report for FRAs. And I think, Gareth, you're giving a verbal update on this? Diolch.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Yes, apologies, it's a verbal update. We'd received at very late notice a supplementary report from the Democracy and Boundary Commission Cymru in relation to the remuneration of Fire Authority members following the change to governance that we discussed previously. Clearly, the model will be very different to the governance model that it exists now, and the Democracy and Boundary Commission is therefore proposing a very different remuneration pattern. They recognise that the three FRAs have a very different governance model. We have very different governance and committee structures. So they are suggesting a daily rate for both councillors and appointees to allow different workloads and different expectations. They've based their daily rate using the Welsh Government model for assessing the size and complexity of organisations, which take account of budget and staffing and the complexity of the functions that they deliver, which is the model that they use for appointing, for deciding the rates of pay for independent members of standards committees, for example. They are proposing rates that vary between £292 for an ordinary member up to £348 for the chair of the Fire Authority, which incidentally is broadly the same as the Scottish FRA. I think the thing to note about the suggestions is, or one of the downsides of the suggestions is that it's going to require a lot more paperwork, or it will require us as a fire and rescue authority to develop some conventions around how we work out what people are paid for meetings and attendance at the different functions that they undertake. There is a deadline for response. Having discussed the issue briefly with the Chief and the Section 151 officer, Chair, we believe a response is required. And we'd seek delegated authority for the Chief, for the Section 151 officer, and myself as clerk, in consultation with yourself, to send that response. And having done that, we then circulate that response round to the members of the authority. I appreciate, Chair, that's a fairly brief run through of a paper that you haven't seen, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Gareth. Just before I throw it out for questions from members, I mean, first of all, I would suggest that all members have sight of the report and can feed back in response. And then what strikes me is a couple of things. Are we saying that sort of cabinet members will get an additional allowance based on the daily rate for attending FRA meetings? That would be one question, which to me doesn't seem to make sense. And the second one would be for the members that are appointed as additional members. So if they I can understand the daily rate if they're attending meetings, but what if they're going to visit fire stations and just getting out and about on the front line? Are they also claiming daily rate for that? I don't know if you can answer either of those questions. Diolch.
So I can. Yes, Chair, they are proposing an additional rate for cabinet members. Now, they for CJCs, for example, this is also a body formed from cabinet members. They don't currently receive additional payment for their duties, but I think the feeling is that CJCs exercise functions that are broadly the same as the constituent councils, whereas of course the Fire and Rescue Authority is very different organisation with very different functions to the constituent councils. So yes, this is a suggestion, and it's a marked difference from where we are at present. It is a suggestion that every member of the Fire Authority, whether they be a cabinet member from a constituent council or a person appointed by Welsh Government, would receive the daily rate. The question you've asked in relation to visits, yes, at the moment so attendance at the paper indicates that attendance at training, they would get time for preparation prior to meetings as well as part of the quotes daily rate, and that's where some of those conventions or our own internal determinations might need to apply. Because otherwise there's the potential for expenses to be submitted for a wide range of functions, where some might be perceived to justify or warrant a claim for expenses and some might not. I'm very conscious about public perception and indeed the perception of others around that sensitivity, Chair.
Thank you, Gareth. It does sound as if there's going to be administrative difficulties with the system proposed, but that's just my personal opinion. Any questions or comments from members in relation to what they've heard, please? Thank you, Anthony.
So prepping for a meeting in a pub, for example, would not be acceptable.
I think some councils take the view that prep would equate to or be the equivalent of the length of the meeting itself. So if a meeting lasted 3 hours, somebody might reasonably claim 3 hours prep. I mean, the irony with that, of course, is that the more prep you do, sometimes the shorter the meeting. And people might take considerably longer to prepare something for something like the statement of accounts. It'd take a lot of reading. But actually, having done the reading, you might decide you have no questions because Elgan and the others and ACFO MacArthur have presented all the information so wonderfully that no questions need to be asked. But it could still take a lot of preparation and then have a very short meeting afterwards. So, yeah, it's a difficult one, Chair.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Gareth Jones. Gareth?
Yeah, I was just thinking actually that if the role of being on the Fire and Rescue Authority board was part and parcel of a cabinet member's role, then it should be incorporated within the pay scale of the cabinet member, and that would just make life so much easier and so much more straightforward when it comes down to it, because a lot of cabinet positions take up an awful lot of time. So this role would have to actually be built into that time allocation.
Katina, I agree. Any other comments or questions? I can't see any other hands being raised, so it's just basically to draw attention to what is in the pipeline at the moment, then, Gareth?
And to ask for that delegation, Chair, that the three named officers and yourself, in consultation with yourself, prepare the response.
Okay, thank you. I'd need a proposal for that. Yeah, thank you, Gareth. Thank you, Ian. Will you all show that in agreement? Diolch yn fawr. That concludes today's short meeting. Thank you very much, everybody, for your attendance and your contributions. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi.
Diolch yn fawr, thank you.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. Ta-ra.
Diolch yn fawr, Dylan.
Diolch, David.